Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are at. I think we'll have Gooch here, hopefully, here in a few minutes. Um, I will be gone at the top of the hour, so we've got about 55 minutes here, but we plan to do a kind of a quick preview of the Raiders game, kind of our thoughts leading into that. Um, Maybe talk a little bit about NFL action today and hit the chat Q&A. So, uh, yeah. Um, well, I'm waiting on Gooch here. I think he's going to join us. And we might get to the point where Aaron can rejoin us again here one of these Sundays and for our midnight lives again. But anyway, um, kind of a crazy day in football so far. Seems like half the teams that I was rooting for ended up losing, or yeah, losing. Uh, but yeah, interesting. It's been an interesting start to the season so far, in that I don't know about you guys, but it's hard to get a full beat on uh, a lot of these teams right now. We got a bunch of teams that are like 2-2-1, 3-2, 2-3. Just kind of like a lot of teams seem like they're kind of bunched together, and so part of that I think is what there's about a third of the teams in the league have new head coaches. Um, so it's probably even more so that have either new head coach or new quarterback. Some of them have both, and so there's a lot of kind of adjusting going on, kind of figuring things out right now, which is one reason why, I like to joke about the rest of the AFC West teams as much as anyone else. But in all seriousness, and I said this in the RGR chat, I wouldn't discount the Raiders uh, at this point. What we saw in the Colts game, uh, what we saw from Gus Bradley's defense in that game was a much better defense than what we saw with the Raiders last year. And we played them twice and we put up 40 plus on them twice last year. And they didn't really follow the trends that the rest of the NFL did. And so, there's part of me that really wonders how much our success with against this Raiders team, using the rosters that John Gruden put together. I'm not giving Mike Mayock credit for it. I think Mike Mayock was basically John Gruden's personal scout. I think John Gruden made those personnel decisions, not Mike Mayock. And I think at the end of the day, they got the players that John Gruden wanted, whether Mike Mayock agreed or objected or whatever the case was. So I just that's the caution I want to throw out here. I'm not expecting a 40 point game. I'm not expecting us to see scores tomorrow night like we saw two times last year, because for me, I really do think that was a reflection of John Gruden more than anything. And I know you're saying, well, I mean, John Gruden is an offensive guy. What would he have to do with the defense? Well, you got to remember that John Gruden and Andy Reid have been longtime buddies, right? So if there's anyone in the NFL that thinks they know Andy Reid's offense, how Andy Reid thinks, what Andy Reid wants to do, it's John Gruden. So I think you start seeing John Gruden sticking his hand in the candy jar, telling Gus Bradley last year, this is what you need to do. This is what I want to see you do. This is how you stop Andy Reid's offense. So I'm not expecting a repeat of those games from last year because John Gruden's gone. A good deal of their draft picks, it's been, it's like public humiliation of their first round picks during the John Gruden era, who are no longer with the team. Again, I'm not blaming Mike Mayock for that. You paid John Gruden $100 million and gave him a 10-year contract. To me, that tells me he was the guy who was completely in control there. He was the one making the decisions. Mike Mayock was answering to him. He was the guy who was doing the drafting. Mike Mayock was his glorified scout. His offensive and defensive coaches were doing what he wanted them to do. So, for that reason, like I said, I'm not expecting a big blowout in this game. And I know there's going to be a lot of Chiefs fans who don't like that because that's what they're expecting. And I'm not saying Josh McDaniels is a much better coach. But anyway, I think that this game, well, one, it seems like the Raiders are finally going to be healthy on offense. You know, Derek Carr is getting to the place where he should be. He and Josh McDaniel should start to be in a groove, or starting to get in a groove during this next 4-game stretch or so of the season. McDaniel should be learning what his pieces can do. Uh, Hunter Renfrow is a good receiver. Everybody knows Devontae Adams, top 1, 2, 3 receiver, however you want to. I'm not going to argue with people whether he's the top or the second or the third best receiver. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Renfrow is a pretty good receiver. He can embarrass some guys on the routes he runs. Darren Waller, probably the fastest tight end in the NFL. And he's a pretty good receiver as well. So you take those guys, and Josh Jacobs was actually coming into this weekend was leading the NFL. I think I got the stat right. Was leading the NFL in inside rushing yards. So the pieces are there. The offensive line isn't great, right? There's a possibility they get that figured out. Even if they don't, you know, yeah, I don't know, because if they don't get it figured out, it might be hard. If you watch the Packers game this morning, to me, that their offensive line was kind of the difference there at the end of the game, right? Or, I mean, you can give credit where credit is due, right? It was the defenders who were getting their hands on the ball and tipping it. But, you know, in my mind, I want to see my offensive linemen stopping that from happening. So, but anyway, maybe the Raiders offensive line dooms them. Maybe Josh McDaniels second time around is almost as bad as he was the first time around. And there are some terrible stories out about the first time around. I hope he has learned from that. But the pieces are in place between the receivers, the tight end, and the running back there for them to have a great offense. Defensively, the big thing for me, and we'll see what Gooch says if he's able to join us here, but defensively, the big thing for me is Max Crosby and Chandler Jones going up against Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley. Like, that's going to be huge. I think the way the refs call the game is going to be huge. Last year when we played the Raiders, Orlando was getting away with a lot of false starts. He was getting away with holding. And really that's what saved us against Max Crosby. So, and I think it was Yannick Ngakoue who was playing. So if the refs had called that game probably more fair in terms of Orlando, it would have set a completely different tempo. I feel safe saying that because I don't think there's any Raiders fans who watch this channel. But we definitely got away with that, and it definitely helped us because Orlando was false starting a lot. He had to get an extra half a second in order to get out to stop Pat from getting hit basically every play. So I would be concerned about that. in terms of our offense, over the past, Jonathan Abram, I would laugh if they put him on Travis this time, because he's lit him up. Like, Abram has not looked good against our offense in general, but I think Travis is like a perfect 10 for 10 or something the last time. Anyway, gonna stop here, rambling here for a second. I see Knight's with us. Knight, it's good to see you. I know we were over in the RGR chat there. Knight says the Raiders were doomed the minute the first shovel of dirt hit Al's coffin. You know, it's been a surprisingly long time. I think I saw on Twitter the other day, it's been like 10 or 11 years since Al Davis died. And I hadn't realized that time flew by that fast. It seemed like it was just a few years ago. But Al Davis and, Jerry Jones, maybe you could put Lamar in there with them. But obviously Lamar didn't have his hand on the team in the same way that Jerry Jones and Al Davis did. But Jerry Jones and Al Davis, they had their stretch where what they did was great and they helped their teams win. And then, the game got away from them. Jerry's still alive and he's still screwing the Cowboys, but, he still has the 90s to look back on and justify himself as an owner GM. So I guess there's that. Renfro, Adams, and Fuller, I'm guessing that's supposed to be Waller, are a good trio, but that O-line, well, that's a mess. Yeah, I mean, I like I said, and that really can be that big of a difference maker. Like I said, I felt like that was part of the Packers issue, this morning. Yeah, I mean, unless you can be way more intentional with things. So, yeah, we'll see on that. The problem is, though, our defensive line, are we going to be able to exploit that, right? And it probably won't be Chris Jones because he'll probably be getting doubled. So can one of the other 2 or 3 guys, depending on, what package we have out there, and if they do feed the ball to Josh Jacobs and they do take advantage of running inside, like I said, coming into this weekend, Josh Jacobs was like number 1 on yards on inside runs. So that's definitely something that Spags has to be looking at. Renfro is can't say he's healthy, but he's good to go coming back from a concussion. So yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? What's Spags going to do? So far the run defense has looked good. Will they continue to look good? I saw someone on Twitter try to say that the run defense looked good because of the teams we went up against. Well, Austin Eckler had himself a day today against the Browns. We went up against Jonathan Taylor with a decent sized number of carries there. So, what are we talking about here? Anyway, refs are always an issue. As a Raiders fan, I think that would probably bug me more, since man, some of those games seem like, remember when the Raiders like constantly had 10, 15 penalties a game? Maybe that's something that Josh McDaniels will instill some discipline in them. I don't know, but that's kind of a weird connection too, because the Cowboys are the same way, right? I just talked about Al Davis and Jerry Jones and that connection there, but those two teams seemed like, and as long as I can remember, 2 of the most penalized, kind of undisciplined teams. So I don't know. Maybe I'm making a bad connection there. Yeah, refs are always an issue. It's always interesting how they how they go. And uh, whose chat was I in? I think it was Big Chief Sean. Big Chief Sean had a live last night. Um, during when the COVID pandemic started, the NFL lost referees who were retiring, and I said at the time, we were going to see this trickle down because you're going to start seeing, worse referee uh, jobs out there, and I think we have. I mean, that roughing the passer uh, for the Falcons today was the biggest load of BS. And I think we've all seen enough of those Tom Brady only flags to last us a lifetime. I've seen a lot of terrible refereeing this season. It seems like more than normal, to the point that you almost start calling them screenwriters instead of referees because they're interjecting themselves and changing the whole plot of the game in crucial moments. So, um, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Knight says, look at the Falcons and how those two craptastic calls gave Brady two chances to run out the clock. Yeah, exactly. It was embarrassing. And I don't care what Mike Martz says. Mike Martz is wrong. Even football zebras on Twitter, the guys who know everything, uh, an official an official Twitter account, um, meaning it's ran by officials who know the rules, said that it was a phantom call. So, um, Knight says it's been a huge dumpster fire since Mark has taken control. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that I understand why they gave Gruden such a long term deal. Like, as an owner, you have to have some patience. I think if you look at the bad teams, that is a constant thing on here. When you look at these bad teams, they're constantly getting rid of coaches. And I know Gooch will tell you, if you look at like the Steelers and people wanted to fire Mike Tomlin. The Steelers are the Rooney family has been really patient with their coaches, and they're rewarded for it. They've had what, like 3 or 4 coaches in the whole history of their franchise because they're patient and they don't get reactionary, and they have good seasons for it. Whereas teams in the past, like the Browns and the Lions, the Jags, the Raiders, you get one bad season or something, and all of a sudden you're firing a guy, you're bringing a whole new staff in, and what do you get for it? You get more trash, But Mark Davis is an owner. He's done good as a WNBA owner, I believe. I believe he's won a championship as a WNBA owner. So, we'll see what happens now that they're on from Gruden. Maybe I'm making him the scapegoat, and he shouldn't be. But I wouldn't laugh at them just yet. Josh McDaniels, might flame out like he did in Denver, and then we can laugh at them. But I wouldn't laugh at them yet because this could be close to a Doug Peterson replacing Urban Meyer situation, in my opinion. Gooch, you made it.
I'm here. I'm here. What's happening?
We're glad you made it, Gooch.
Even if for a short time, I'm here for a fun time.
Right. Knight says Dunlap should have a good game. I'm interested in. I haven't got to watch the All 22 this week. I've been busy, but um, one of the things I was interested in is it seemed like the last couple of weeks, one of the things that we've been doing to get some of this run defense success is we've been playing like a 3-3-5 um, or something similar like that. I'm talking off the top of my head here, and Dunlap has been that third linebacker. I'm interested to see when Gay is eligible to come back from suspension, what Spags does there. But I think it was in the Colts game, and I talked about this play, I think, where George was the end and Dunlap. I think it was Dunlap. No, it was actually Harris on that play. But George was the end and Harris was the linebacker. And right before the snap, George kicks inside and Harris comes up to the line of scrimmage and Justin Reed blitzes and tackles Jonathan Taylor for loss. And even if they had been passing the ball, Justin Reed would have murdered Matt Ryan on that play. But yeah, they've been using Dunlap as a linebacker, according to one of my follows on Twitter who charts all the snap counts for all the players and actually charts what personnel the Chiefs are in on offense and defense for each snap and who's out there for each snap. And so, you'll see there's three defensive linemen out there, and you'll see that Carlos Dunlap is on the field at the same time. So I think that's kind of been one of the ways they've been trying to combat some of that. So it could be fun to see that this week. It would be fun. I'm looking forward to when they finally bring out Danny Shelton, but I'm not sure we're going to see him, Gooch. If we didn't see him against a 260-pound Leonard Fournette, are we going to see him at all this season? I mean, without injury? I don't know.
I don't know. I just want to say how great is the NFL, man. The Packers lost to the Giants, who happen to be 4-1. The Jets put on a show.
Yeah. I mean, listen, people make fun of me when I say any given Sunday. It's not just a cliche saying. It is a reality. We did Picks Pool last year. We've done fantasy football. Listen, fantasy football is 75% strategy and 90% luck. Like there's no two ways about it. You can have all the strategy you want. You can do the best job in the world at drafting. I have Jonathan Taylor on my team and Michael Thomas. They're both out today. So guess what? Guess who's probably going to lose today, right?
I'm not. I'm on the comeback trail.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I won the league last year going like 7-5 or 7-6. So all that really matters is that your players are healthy and they catch fire at the right time. So, and that they don't have their bye week the same week.
The Cowboys beat the Rams.
Hefe, good to see you. Gooch, Hefe says the Raiders' offensive line is as soft as cotton.
Twinkie feeling.
They, man, it's funny, and it's interesting. Josh McDaniels being the offensive coordinator so long in New England, having probably the best. I don't want to say the best ever, but at least while he was in the NFL, the best offensive line coach in the NFL at that time, and Dante Scarnacchia, to going over to the Raiders, and I don't even know who the offensive line coach is now, but anyway, I can't imagine that transition because, I want to say it's just kind of funny because I saw an article the other day. I think it was from years ago, and it was on John Gruden, and like he talked about what he looked for in his coaching staff. And the first thing I believe he said was offensive line coach, and what he looked for in his offensive line coach, which just made it really hilarious. Anyway, yeah, as Hefe said, we held Jonathan Taylor to 71 yards. Yeah, we held Eckler, we held Taylor. Of course, the Bucks only ran like 6 times for 3 yards, I believe it was. Who am I forgetting? We faced good running backs so far this season. It's not like we were, facing the worst of the worst. So, Knight says, "What have I missed? Been seeing folks saying RGR, specifically Dan, is hating on Karlaftis. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything there. I haven't watched. I haven't got to watch.
He got the Cornell Powell pick wrong again.
What was that?
He would, because he got the Powell pick wrong again. I mean, how bad is it that they'd rather have Chris Conley? Old Stone Hands himself if he's not running a go route.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in Conley though. I feel like Conley was one of those when I saw that we released Corey Coleman and I saw that Conley had been released at the same time. It kind of caught my eye, and one of the first things I thought, Gooch, was the way, like, what we're doing on offense now seems to fit, at least back when Conley was actually on the team, seems to fit much better than what it did back then, because we weren't using height in that offense at that point. So, and now we are. And, his athletic profile may be to where he doesn't ever get called up from the practice squad, but I still found it interesting. So, but yeah, I don't know. I've apparently missed it as well. I haven't got to watch much content the last week or two. So, Hefe says he wants to see Carr cry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've really seen that like we have with Phillip Rivers, but definitely missing seeing that from Rivers. So maybe we can get Carr to cry, and maybe he's smart enough to have the anti-smear mascara on if he does. So Knight says we all want that, Hefe. Yeah, it's true. We do. Knight says, so is the D holding before it? Yeah, I'm confused on that. So is the D holding before it? Oh, the defensive holding call before the Brady call, I'm assuming we're talking about here. Aaron's with us. Aaron, how far behind are we? 10 minutes or so? Okay. Aaron, glad you're able to at least stop in here for a few minutes. Not sure if you're still in the chat or not, but yeah. Aaron says, and Brady tried to kick the guy. Yeah, I believe it. Brady can. You know what Brady reminds me of, Gooch? Do you remember, Gooch? Do you remember the old Dave Chappelle sketch with Wayne Brady? I don't know if Gooch can talk right now.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tom Brady is Wayne Brady. The rest of the NFL is Dave Chappelle. You remember that sketch where they're like driving in the car?
Oh yeah, everybody remembers that sketch.
and yeah. Anyway, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, there you'll have to Google that. And but yeah, so Wayne Brady's driving, and can we even talk about this without getting some kind of flag? Anyway, so Wayne Brady's driving, and Dave Chappelle's like really scared, because Wayne Brady's driving like a white guy. And the cops pull him over. If I recall correctly, it's been a while since I've seen it. And when the cop approaches Wayne Brady's just like, "I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that." And Dave's like, "What? You can't say that. You can't just say, 'I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that.'" Anyway, Wayne Brady gets off completely fine. And Dave Chappelle's just like, "Man, if that had been me, I would have been shot and killed." Wayne Brady just gets off by saying, "I'm sorry, officer, I didn't know I couldn't do that." And it's like he gets treated completely different than anybody else. Maybe it's just a coincidence that it's Tom Brady, Wayne Brady. I don't know, but that's where my mind went there. Yeah, Tom Brady gets away with whatever he wants. And then the few refs who don't let him get away with what he wants, then he throws a temper tantrum, right? All right. Got a little side chat going on. Knight says, "Good to have you here, Gooch." Knight says, "This season is exactly that. Anything can happen at any time." Yeah, I mean, it has seemed like a really crazy season. I don't know if it's because of all like the QB and head coach changes. I don't know how much is the refs like interjecting themselves in games, or it seems like there's been a lot of injuries too. I don't know. It's been kind of weird right now. Everything is just a lot of things are confusing. Knight says the Raiders have good offensive pieces, but that doesn't mean much if the offensive line can't keep run lanes open and the quarterback can't see the last word there. Quarterback something. Anyway, yeah. Well, I mean, apparently they're doing something right with the run blocking, because, like I said, Josh Jacobs coming into this weekend was like number one in rushing yards, inside rushing yards. So they did have that going for them. So, it's something they can build off of. It's something they should be able to build a play action game off of, really. And with Waller, as fast as he is, being able to do crossers, with Renfro being able to run, some ridiculous double and triple moves, and then of course Devontae there. Even with the offensive line not being the greatest, they should be able to build off of that. I think it's just a matter of how much Josh McDaniels has grown as a head coach and how quickly they can make that jump. So, yeah, we'll see. Aaron says, "Yeah, I like Conley. Conley caught my favorite Mahomes pass of all time." Man, I think my favorite Mahomes pass of all time was the one that Tyreek caught that will never be counted officially as a catch, because nobody in the world knew that he caught it until after the replay went on the Arrowhead scoreboard, or video board. Knight says, "Yeah, but Rivers cried to his wife and they would have another kid even." I'm speechless. That was a good one. Knight, yeah, Falcons game. Aaron says, "Yeah, I know that stand-up." I think he's talking about the Wayne Brady and Dave Chappelle sketch there. Let's see. Did we get all caught up on chat here, Gooch? I think we did. So with that said, Gooch, I kind of already gave my keys to the game, which, very quickly to recap, was on offense. I think it comes down to how well Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley can block against Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, with kind of a secondary part there being how the refs call the game, because last year Orlando Brown was getting away with a lot of holding and false starts. So, and they were letting them get away with that. So those are my offensive keys. Defensively, again, it was pointing out Josh Jacobs' ability to run inside and what Spags chooses to do with that, and how he's able to stop the Raiders from manipulating the defense into personnel that they can then take advantage of with Waller and Renfro and Adams, and of course the pass rush on the defensive line. I don't really worry about our back seven. It's I wouldn't even say I worry about Karlaftis, because even if his technique isn't the greatest, and I don't know exactly what Dan said, but even if his technique isn't the greatest, his motor makes up for stuff. And so, to me, that's perfectly fine. As he learns, that's a benefit for him, that he has that motor and he doesn't give up on plays, because that will help him. So anyway, so those were my keys. I don't know if you can talk, Gooch, to give your keys here really quick, but anyway, we got about 20 minutes or so here, guys. I don't know how long Gooch has, but yeah.
Keys to the game. Mahomes getting the ball out fast. Offensive line, or at least chipping on Orlando's side. Because I have a sneaky feeling they're going to stick Max Crosby over there. I don't know if you've seen what Max did to whoever that guy was trying to block him last week. He just made him look like a high schooler. And the defense just continued to play. Like, I don't think they get a lot of love because, you gave up 31 to Tampa Bay. It was all garbage time stats. Brady's stats were garbage time stats. Those points were garbage time points. I mean, Spagnuolo called off the dogs, and rightfully so. You don't want to continue to throw exotic blitzes at Brady and giving other people film on what you might do when you're up 28. There's really no point in the matter. He didn't play prevent. He kept everything in, sort of played prevent, but he kept everything in front of him. They rallied to the ball. They got the number 2 ranked rush defense in the NFL at some stupid 2.3 something yards to carry. All starts with Mahomes. All starts and ends with Mahomes. Continue working on your footwork, getting the ball out fast. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. That wasn't racist because a black guy said it.
All right. Sorry about that, Aaron. I just saw your message there, so I just sent you an email, buddy. My phone is on the charger, but luckily I got other ways to check texts. Yeah, I'm interested.
I'm so used to not getting text messages from you bums. I'll never look at my phone anymore.
Hey, I send them out all the time. I don't get anything back, so
It's usually because I'm reading them and I'm like, I got something for that, and then I got to do something at work.
Oh, yeah. Knight says blindside pressure on Carr would be quite helpful. Yeah, that it would be nice. You know what? I don't really care if it's blindside or not. Like, if it's coming where he can see it, I think that it affects him enough. But yeah, I just hope we don't play soft zone like we did the first half of the Chargers game. Man, nothing bugs me more than you have a 3rd and 2 and you have cornerbacks 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. Like, you're just conceding the first down here. Like, that doesn't fly with me. But anyway, I don't want to nag on Spags. Like, I have a love-hate relationship with him. Like, I think he's got a great personality as a person. And sometimes there are some weeks when he is doing his pressers where, I'm like, I really like this guy, he can stay the coach. And then there's some weeks where I just don't care for him very much. And I don't like that even happens. Like, I wish there was more. I don't know. I'm trying to grow as a fan, so it's probably more me than him. But anyway, yeah. So here, let me do this before Aaron tries to do it.
Yeah, I can't.
There you go.
I still can't.
I sent you that email like 20 times, man.
It didn't come through in time, so then it was too late when I tried.
We're talking about Dub here, man. He ain't doing no emails.
I'll do emails.
Wait, what? You're making it sound like USPS is like delivering the code. It's getting caught. It's taking a whole day in like the email system.
I don't know if it took that long. By the time I got to it, it was too late.
Right, because if you get at work and you probably, if you don't get it or you forget and then you get at work, then you're screwed for 8 or 10 hours. So, man, can I just say this? I hate USPS. I'm sorry if anyone out there works for anyone with USPS, but whoever is their CEO and whoever is in charge of logistics is a complete moron.
That would be the Postmaster General of the United States, Keys.
No, yeah, sure, the postmaster, but anyone who works under them who is specifically in charge of logistics is a moron. Like, every single time I get a package and it's delivered USPS, like, I can just go ahead and tack on a couple extra days and some really stupid movement. Like, I had a package that was being shipped out of Kansas City, guys. Shipped out of Kansas City, 3 hours away. What do you think they did, Aaron? What do you think they did, Gooch?
Sent it back to you.
It probably went to Texas.
They flew it to Des Moines just to drive it back to Kansas City that very day, 12 hours later. These people are stupid. Sorry, I don't want to go down here. I don't want to go down there, but it's a waste of fuel. It's a waste of jet fuel. It's not environmentally friendly. It's not customer service friendly. It makes absolutely no sense because they do this all the time. Somebody in charge there is stupid. I'm just going to say that. I'm done. Let's talk football.
Dang, when was the last time the three of us were all on together?
It's been a while. Sorry for that.
Knight says, there's times when we're all thinking, what the hell, Spags? Okay, I'm glad it's not just me.
Absolutely.
To be fair, it's the same with Andy, right? Or whoever we're saying the play caller is. Somebody out there said that they've analyzed Andy's play calling over the years, and Andy is the one calling the plays. So, but I know that's a hot topic, right? Because there's a lot of talk out there and a lot of reaction out there to when the play calling is great, it's Andy. When the play calling is bad, it's Bieniemy. You know, who's calling the plays, who's not. It seemed like last week, Andy made it sound like he was calling the plays. Somebody whose job or part of their job is to look at play calling specificity says that Andy has been the one who's calling plays every week. It's not Eric, one way or the other. You know, he doesn't deserve the praise. He doesn't deserve the hate. It's Andy.
I don't believe that. What I believe is, what I've been told is that the bigger the game, Andy takes over more of the play calling.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I'm just telling you what.
And the kicker is that if you watch the game, there's nothing against Bieniemy. I mean, everybody has said, you know, like, generally you don't really need Bieniemy to call plays. Most head coaches anymore are just CEOs of the franchise. That's why they have offensive coordinators who call plays and defensive coordinators. Their job is to manage the whole team and time management and all of that, clock management and whatever. You only have those few offensive geniuses, Andy, Shanahan, McVay, Belichick on the defensive side of the ball, who can do both.
Yeah, if he was coaching this year.
I mean, current coaches, sorry. Peyton, obviously, too. But, I mean, it's and I think that's why Well, I even said it on, maybe I said it on a Rogue Live. Maybe I meant to. But that's why the enemy doesn't have a job yet. Like, you can lead men and rah and get them fundamentals and stuff, but you can't lead a franchise because you don't have that one little leadership quality. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to say this, but the enemy sounds like Saban. Like, the enemy would do great in college with that dictatorial, you know what I'm saying, dictator-like attitude, yelling, and this, that, and the other. That would work in college, and he'd probably be hella successful. But when you're making less than your quarterback, you can't be yelling at these grown men who make 3 times what you make as a coach. You got to massage egos. You got to, you know, coddle a little bit. You got to be a counselor, you know what I'm saying, and still be able to take the brunt of the blame.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point there, and it's not just an EB thing, but it's an interesting point there about being an assistant, an offensive or defensive coordinator, is that when you get to that point, when you've worked your way up that ladder, you can't just, well, you can, but I don't think you should just be coaching according to your personality. You have to start getting to that place where you understand you have to get into personality management, which means that you have to become more diversified in that. You have to understand this player, you know, this player is motivated by this, while this player is motivated by that. I can't treat these 2 players. I can't talk to the 2 players the same. You got to learn that. You can't just say, this is who I am, and I'm going to yell at everybody, because you won't last very long as a head coach in the NFL if that's.
And that's not even just coaching. If you're in any kind of leadership anywhere in any kind of business, that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just that NFL is more high profile. But if you're running any kind of business, managing any kind of people, you have to massage egos, especially in today's economy or in today's society where it's easy to go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? You could lose your best people just because you don't know how to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I say it like it should be a natural fact, but maybe it isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandma used to say, treat people like you want to be treated. You know what I'm saying? I'm the opposite. I treat people according to what you give me. but that's me. Don't go modeling anything after me. I'm the black sheep for a reason.
Just like she can call me dumb all she wants, but I'm still gonna cuss.
Oh, I don't know who told you that, but that really sounds like my grandma. Don't cuss.
That was you. That's
intelligent people. Don't use curse words. I would cuss right now, but I'm trying not to send everything behind the 18 wall.
Oh, man.
I'll do it with you then.
Knight says he used to work in the mailroom for the IRS and has perma-hate for the USPS. Yeah.
Yeah, that made me smile.
Dog, that's like, I mean, there's Knight. Was that Knight that said that?
Yeah.
Knight, there are certain levels of hell. Brother, I'm a firm believer, and you somehow found the 6th circle. Mailroom for the IRS?
All right.
Bro.
He definitely hasn't looked that way this year, Maui. Good to see you, man.
And Knight says you got to use people skills and get the best out of your players. Yeah, definitely. And again, I'm not here to dog EB. You know, we only know what we've seen. You know what we see. We've heard some things from people who were at training camp and had interactions, you know, with EB that weren't very positive. You know, like fans and stuff like that. So you know, I mean, that can kind of add to it, but. And again, this is a point that, you know, it's not just an EB point. It is any coach point. But yeah. And again, Gooch, or I don't know. I only know what this guy was saying because that's what he studied. One of the things he studies is play caller uniqueness. And he just flat out said it's Andy, and Andy has these lulls at times. But you know what? Maybe that's it. And maybe that's what he's seeing there is there's lulls. And I think we talked about this last week. I could see that. You have a game where you have short rest. You have Eric and you have Matt. If you're a head coach, I think one of the strong suits of being a coach or manager or whatever is knowing how and when to delegate. Now, do you want to do it to the extent that Urban Meyer did it? Then you're talking about not even being a coach. You're just pawning everything off on people. But if you have a week where you have short rest, maybe you do. And I postulated about this a week ago. Maybe you do say, hey, Eric, you start developing the game plan for the Colts game, or Matt, you start developing, the game plan for the Colts game. And then Eric and I are going to take a little extra time and we're going to work more on the Tampa game. So, so that you don't get into a situation where you don't have enough time for one game and you put all your energy into that game. And then the next game, you don't show up either. Like, it would make sense to me if you had that kind of thinking. And then Mr. I look at play call uniqueness for a living says, okay, I see this happening every once in a while. Yeah, maybe that's part of what Andy does. He lets his offensive coordinator do more for this game or that game strategically, and especially earlier in the season. I mean, it can both things can be explained by that, and I don't know. So, yeah, either way, I think the big thing is fans speculate. When the team loses, we have to scapegoat somebody. And the way that Andy has set things up, we don't really know who's behind the curtain, who's the wizard, so to speak, at times. So fans speculate, fans blame. We got to have a scapegoat every loss, right? Even though, like I said, in that Colts game, there's like 35 things. I think if you fill in the blank, if blank doesn't happen, we win. To where you really shouldn't be able to blame one person because there are 35 different things that affected that game. You take out one of them and change it, we probably win. Anyway. Knight says college is the way. Gooch said the head coach is the end all be all. NFL is a whole different ball game. And he said, Gooch, if we treat you like a superstar, then what?
Well, I tell you what, since I already treat myself like a superstar, you really don't have to treat me like one. See, I wake up in the morning and I piss excellence. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really great being me. But let me give you a little piece of advice real quick while we're discussing, and we can go back to football while we're discussing coaches. It's one of the things, I've done a lot of things in my life that I am not proud of that can be discussed, and I'm trying to do stuff now that when I look back on when I'm 60 or 70, I will be proud of. But the number one thing that I tell myself every single day is value loyalty above all else. Because those people are going to be the ones that's going to have your back. And there's very few people, but they're going to have your back through it all. And when you're at your worst or at your best, they're not going to ask any more from you than what they can already give. You know what I'm saying? And you repay those people back first. Value loyalty above all else. And your personal life will be a lot better for it.
Right. Very well said. Maui, it's good to see you here. We got behind again, but that's okay. Maui says Orlando Brown Jr. is a top left tackle. Either that's supposed to be okay. I was waiting for it. I said I thought either he's being sarcastic or there's a not. Okay, there we go. Says in Borat voice, not.
Stevie Free.
I can't stop
What?
laughing.
What? I'm not going to be baited, so. Knight says, me either, Stevie, but Andy did get on the O-line after the Colts debacle, and look how they manhandled the number one rush defense last week. Yeah, well, and I think part of it is getting exposed is a good thing, right? Like when another team shows you weaknesses that you didn't see yourself, it gives you a chance. This is one of the reasons why I think one of the worst things in the world is to have a huge win streak, especially if you're going into the playoffs. You want momentum, but if you have weaknesses, you want teams showing you have those weaknesses, because if you make it into the playoffs and you get a team that studies and finds your weaknesses and then you figure it out, it's usually too late. So, to me, I think that's a big part of it is, the Colts, the Chargers, before found some weaknesses in the offensive line and found some ways to exploit the offensive line, and even McKinnon in pass protection. And so we started to get things cleaned up. Maybe if Trey is able to get healthy, that's going to help. I don't know that Orlando is going to be able to play enough tennis this year to help him with his issues. So it's really going to be how willing Andy will or won't be to help him out on his side, in my opinion there.
I forgot about that tennis part.
Knight says, love you, Gooch, you rock. We don't need any Gooch ego boosting. And by the way,
No kidding.
When Gooch says that he pisses excellent in the morning, I'm pretty sure he's talking about steroids. So anyway.
Nothing? Come on, man.
Knight says, gotta say, watching Trey Smith body slamming Vea to the ground on that one play was priceless. For sure. Who was it? Was it Hayward today for the Steelers that they got a nice little slam on Josh Allen today? That was nice. You probably didn't get to see it though, did you, Aaron?
What was it? Sorry.
I think it was Cam Hayward, if I recall correctly. Got a nice little slam on Josh Allen earlier today.
Ooh, no, I didn't.
The Bills-Steelers game. It was like a designed run for Allen, I think. And he met a matter behind the line of scrimmage and half like clotheslined him to the ground.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to have to look for that now.
Yeah, it was a beautiful play. Knight says Vea is a very good defensive lineman, and on that play, Smith just said no. Yeah, we love to see it. That's why we love Trey. I did hear on it's not the Dan show anymore. Dan Talks Football. The other night, Friday night during his live, that he was asked about Creed and Trey, and he thought that the Chiefs would let Trey move on and would sign Creed to an extension, and that Trey would move on to a more run-oriented offense. But we'll see.
I hope he's wrong on that.
Yeah, I think that they've intentionally tried to put some power on this offensive line. And I would hope there's a sense of loyalty there with Trey, that even though it was the 6th round, the Chiefs gave him his shot, right? And have been very careful and did a great job with how they've managed, helped him manage his health. So, but yeah, I would agree. I hope that that we extend the two of them. I hope the the cap goes up a lot, by then. And probably if we get to that point, we probably see Tooney get cut, and cap savings there probably goes to one of those guys. But regardless, we got to figure out the tackle situation by then, and we're going to have some cheap but good young solutions, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. Sometimes I get mad, like watching the Bills and watching the Bucks and looking at the foundation that they built on the offensive and defensive line. Sometimes I just get mad how it's taken us this long to get to this point and we're still not where they're at. Nothing against Veach, though. I think it was Spot Track. I shared this on Twitter a day or two ago, but the Chiefs are like, since 2019, the percentage of players that they've drafted that are on their active roster is like around 90%. They lead the NFL over 2019 through 2022 in players drafted who are on the 53-man roster. It's like during that time, the only players who are no longer that we drafted who are no longer on that roster are
Bring back Bo Pete.
Are Darwin Thompson, Bo Pete, Cornell Powell, and let's see, I think there's one more. I know those three, maybe one more. It seems like there's one more that just slipped my mind. Darwin, Bo Pete. Man, I lost the third one. I think there were 4 on there. So that's not too shabby for the last 4 years, 90%. Of course, that's aided by having 10 out of 10 this year, right? So, but yeah. Knight says, I sure hope we keep him because right now, Tooney, Humphrey, and Smith are the best 3 interior line trio in the NFL. Yeah, I agree, but I don't think Tooney's going to be here when it comes time to extend Trey and Creed, regardless if we do extend both of them.
Do they move Smith to the other side?
Yeah, that would be interesting. If Kennard can't stick at right tackle, is that kind of what you're thinking? Here in a couple of years, they develop him to be the right guard and move Trey over to left guard.
Ooh, I didn't think of that, but that's not bad.
Like, it would have been nice
if
Niang had been able to be healthy and been what they were expecting him to be. But I don't have a lot of faith that he's going to be able to stay healthy and have much of a NFL career left.
Definitely not at this point.
Knight says Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, that's true. But if you look at how quickly the Bills and Bucks were able to build those rosters, there's still some angering things. Those are deep rosters, and they were built fairly quick. And you look at how long we screwed around having the highest paid defense in the NFL dipping into free agency, and part of that is the whole John Dorsey thing. Brett Veach's first draft wasn't that great, but we didn't have a lot of John Dorsey guys sticking around either. So, John Dorsey gets a lot of praise, and yeah, he's a great evaluator of talent, but, saying go look at 2017, 18, granted, we didn't have very many picks because we traded up to get Patrick, but at the end of the day.
Speaking of free agency, what do you think about Odell Beckham Jr. wanting to come to Kansas City? We are his top choice.
Did he say that? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, he did. KC, and then 3 other teams I don't care about.
Yeah. Well, I saw, was it Marcus Spears had his list of 5 or whatever. when they were going back and forth on Twitter in a positive way. They weren't arguing, but when they were chatting, I think it was Marcus Spears, wasn't it? They were chatting back and forth on Twitter, and he said the Rams, Bills, Chiefs, I forget who the other two teams were, Saints, I think, and Bucks. Were those the five teams? But I hadn't seen anything. I seen that Odell had responded and said something about them thinking alike, but I hadn't seen anything about him saying the Chiefs were his top choice, which I wouldn't believe, right? You don't necessarily come out and say that unless you're posturing and the team you want to play for may be one of the Chiefs' biggest contenders, and you're wanting to get money out of them. But I don't know how many of those teams actually have cap space, to be honest. I'd have to look that up, but off the top of my head, I don't think that the Chiefs or Bills have much cap space at all.
There seems to always be a way around that, though. And then the next question, I've got a number in my head to pay him. I think we would have to go ahead and sign him for next year as well. But how much?
That's an interesting question.
I was thinking about 13 mil between this year and next.
Okay, Green Bay Knight says KC, Green Bay, Saints, Bucks, and Buffalo. I thought I saw the Rams. The Rams were definitely one of the teams on the list. Maybe there were 6 teams on there. Yeah,
do you have any kind of number?
I have no idea. I would think if he wherever he goes, he is going for a 1-year deal to try to get paid for next year. If there's a 2-year contract, my guess would be that the second year would be a voidable year. So that basically it's a 1-year contract, but most of the money that team is paying him is thrown on to next year because the contenders don't have much cap space. I don't know if that's what you were getting at, Aaron, but that would be my guess. So I don't know, maybe something like $9-10 million next year.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe some likely to not be earned incentives or something.
I'd be good with that. Would he play for that, though? I would definitely want to structure it that way.
Well, I mean, the thing about those is they can be things that are actually he could actually get to, but since they're based off of what he's done in the last year, it can look like for the purposes of accounting it that way, it would be not likely to be earned, even if it could be, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense for you right now or not.
Yeah.
Right. So say Sammy Watkins, right? Basically anything you put into his contract. What?
Sammy Watkins, the king of hurt hamstrings.
Right. You could put almost anything in Sammy's contract, as an incentive, and it would look like it's not likely to be earned because it's based off of the last year or so. Right. So what number, how healthy were they? What numbers did they put up that year? And so all you got to do is stay healthy and you're going to earn those incentives. But if I recall correctly, not likely to be earned incentives are either tagged on to the following year's cap or they're split. They're not, if they're earned, they don't just get thrown completely on the current year's cap because they were labeled not likely to be earned. I think they're thrown onto the following year's cap, which is why I threw that out there is maybe it's a possibility. If there are the right incentives that might look like they're not likely to be earned, but they could definitely make sure that they're earned. But I don't know. Let me look here. I'm trying to look up salary caps here. See.
Gooch, you want to give any kind of number? And what did you think?
I think.
Do you want him? I can tell you Liz does. Does that mean you want to go the opposite?
As much as I loathe LT, I would say I think it would be a great fit here. Here's why. Juju is basically tight end too, because he runs the same routes as Kelsey, takes over the middle of the field. You've got Kelsey and Juju as your starting tight ends. You've got MVS, and you put OBJ on the other side, and that's scary. With Sky running the slot too, out routes, that could be a vicious combo. Now, I say you want to come here because, one, Patrick Mahomes hasn't even hit his prime yet. So you could go to war with this quarterback for the next, obviously, OBJ is what, 27, 28?
He's that young?
I think so. Keys?
I'll look it up.
The statistician is going to work. I saw his computer live.
I was about to look.
He can run with this quarterback for the next few years. That's not.
He's gonna be 30 here in a couple weeks.
Is he that old? I didn't think he was that old.
Yep.
I guess it's not old. I mean, Deshaun and
23 weeks, less than 3 weeks.
But he could go with this quarterback. He's going to have a shot every year, and he's going to let you be you. And you can still keep your home in Los Angeles and play Flyboy in the offseason. I don't think McDermott would know how to handle him. I think it would be a dumpster fire in Green Bay because you can't have two divas. And you've already got a big one at quarterback. Who was the other teams?
I want to say something, but we're going to be good tonight.
Oh, you mean me and my divaness? Yeah, I know.
No. I was talking about Rodgers. I want to call him a name, but I'm not going to.
I think it'd work. And I think something in the long... He'll sign a one-year deal simply because he'll want to try and get one more huge contract. The problem is the people that are going to be able to give him that contract are going to be bottom feeders.
Yep.
So, and he's not going to want to play there. If he does, you're looking at Moss and Oakland. That's what I really think.
All right.
Did he even mention the Rams?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I mean, he could fool us all and go back to the Giants. They are winning now. I figure what we hit Sammy with.
They wouldn't pay him, though. No, they did pay him and then traded him.
Yeah. I figure 2 years, $25 million. Second year voidable, of course, so he can go get his big contract.
Right.
Okay.
I'd really be surprised if whatever deal he signs doesn't have the second year as a voidable contract, so that he really does get.
You also have to throw in there, like, there's the allure of playing with Patrick. So you could get an MVS deal. 3 years where the third year is voidable, give him 2 years to get acclimated. And then if he wants to stay, re-sign him long term. If not, you got 2 years of a elite receiver. Kind of like Tyreek. We got, 5 years out of him, and then let him go get the bag. And he got smushed by Quinnen Williams I don't know if you saw that today. And then he left with a air cast on his foot. Now I don't wish injury, but I think that cast was because he got embarrassed by Quinnen Williams, who was running back a fumble.
Yeah, so I think if you look at the teams, I think the Rams, clearly he knows how he feels about Matt Stafford being his quarterback. And that Cooper Kupp is, getting probably close to 200, targets.
Good Lord, they threw to him nonstop.
If you look at Green Bay and
Stafford's arm is not the same. Are y'all seeing that?
Right. Yeah. I believe he's playing with an injury, but
he hurt his hand towards the beginning, getting sacked. The sack fumble, I think it was.
Well, the offensive line is missing Whitworth to begin with, right? I think the offense itself is really missing OBJ, just like it did at the Super Bowl. Like that offense clearly looked different when he went out, and so, I'm surprised they didn't try to go fill that void stronger than they did, but he knows how he feels about that. I know what my outsider perspective is. I think if you look at Green Bay, and this is just me, what my thought process was. If I was him, I'd be looking at the drama of Aaron, and I'd be looking at what was he able to do with Devontae, right? So I would probably rule them out. Probably the same thing. Well, probably the same thing with the Bucks, simply because of their receiver core. Like, what kind of share are you going to get? You could maybe use that same justification with the Chiefs. Knight brings up a good point as well. Maybe why he wouldn't want to consider the Chiefs, because as Knight says, the thing is mid-November, and even if he was 100%, how many games would he have under his belt before the playoffs? Because we've seen how many veteran receivers come in here now, right? Even veteran players in general, running backs and receivers come in, and it takes them a while to get this offense. So could you even expect him to do anything at any point the rest of the season anyway? And if you signed him and you gave him all that money, and even if he was fine with it, how fine would he be if the whole point was next year for him to cash out and he doesn't even see the field really until the playoffs, if even then? So
I could see Andy making plays just for him, though. That would be simple and easy enough.
maybe, but wouldn't you think that Andy would do the same for Sky? That Andy would do the same thing for, all these other veterans that we've brought in? Yeah, it's even the rookies, right?
The thing is, and here's the thing, you can probably count, just barely over one hand, how many truly elite requires attention receivers there are out there. What, Tyreek, Devontae, Nuke, OBJ when he's healthy, Cooper Kupp? I mean, you don't have to have the playbook mastered to put OBJ out there, and he's going to require 2 sets of eyes on him. And that opens up the rest of your offense, in my opinion. I don't know for sure. Just somebody that, like, I've seen OBJ at his best, and I've seen his worst in Cleveland, and he still was drawing attention when he was hurt. You know what I'm saying? And just
Absolutely.
for the kind of offense that the Chiefs want to run, which is basically anybody offense, because Patrick even says it's going to be a different guy every week. If you throw OBJ out there, MVS, Sky, and Juju and Travis, who are you going to double?
Right. I don't disagree with that. I would think another question here with that, though, is let's say we get really close to that point where we would be offering him a contract, and the offense is looking like it did last week. There's perfect balance. Pat's hitting, 8 different people and having 350-yard games and 4 touchdowns. And then you have the discussion of, if you bring in OBJ, are you going to go back? Are you shifting back more towards, and we're not saying he's nowhere in the ballpark of being a unicorn that Tyreek is, but in the whole, we essentially had 2 targets on every play, Tyreek or Travis, right? Would there be any concern about signing him, and then we end up, and maybe this is completely stupid because we go back to the other point that there wouldn't be a whole lot of plays, right, where he would be able to catch on quickly. But say the end of the playoffs, we get deep in the playoffs, are you concerned about a point of Pat goes back to looking at OBJ and Travis every single play and forgetting what got them, deep into the playoffs at that point?
Hey, Robert, you too, man. Good to see you.
What do you think on that, Gooch? And Aaron?
I think with the way that injuries are happening this season to a lot of people, I think you do everything you can to get more talent and depth because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it seems like every week now our receivers are battling something already, and we're just 4 weeks in. You know what I'm saying? And I understand the trepidation. I do. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I got OBJ, I got Travis out there. And then, like, when Byron Pringle was wide open, I'm not even seeing Juju over there because I'm looking these guys' way. But you also have to trust in the maturation of your quarterback. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was hitting 8 or 9 receivers when he had Tyreek. It just became where having Tyreek was easy because then it was, well, I'll just throw it up. Tyreek's down there somewhere with his 4.2 speed. OBJ's not running 4.2. He's running what Juju's running,
Right.
4.4. You know what I'm saying? But, and one of the main things that I love about OBJ really is he's not as injured as Sammy, but he has hands like Sammy. If it touches his hands, it's going to stick. You know what I'm saying? He's going to pull it in. And we don't really, well, aside because we haven't seen Sky go yet. The only person we really got with hands is Travis, and even he can be iffy sometimes. You know, so have another sure-handed guy out there would benefit us. But then the cold sets in. You know, does OBJ want to play in the cold? Does he?
Well, if he doesn't want to play in the cold, then I would think that Green Bay and Buffalo are definitely off his list, and Kansas City would be kind of in the middle there, right?
I don't think Green Bay's on the list anyway because he had an opportunity to go there after the Devontae Adams trade and he didn't go.
True.
I think what made him not go there the first time will be the first thing he looks at the second time. Like, well, I didn't want to do this the last time because of this. You know what I'm saying? So why would I go there now? Especially now when you've got all these young receivers and that Aaron already doesn't trust. You know you're going to be the main focal point, which could cause you to be injured again because people are going to be keying off on you.
That's a good point. But I would like to see Sky Moore learn from him as well. I think that could go a long way.
Right.
I think he could take quite a bit of his game and see how he practices and everything.
Yeah, I think on paper the offense could be that much more fun and definitely that much more scary for defenses. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out here in a couple of weeks, one way or the other, wherever he goes. But listen, guys, I got to get ready to go. We've went about 25 minutes longer than I said we would. So I got some family stuff that I promised to them. So let's get some last thoughts in here, and then Gooch can pay the bills.
I'm going to go 38-17 for the score tomorrow. I won't go over 40.
I think we dropped 40 burger.
Pretty close.
I'm going 40-21.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna give score predictions. I hate doing that. And
did we lose him?
What's that? Anyway, just want to point out we will, well, at least one of us, at least for a few minutes anyway, will be live tomorrow night following
Did I lose you both?
The RGR, the post game for RGR, and so we'll go live a few minutes after that. Hopefully not midnight again, but anyway, guys, I'm going to let Gooch pay the bills here. We want to thank you guys for watching us tonight, and want to remind you to hit the like button there and to share. If you're not a subscriber yet and you're watching this, go ahead and subscribe. Again, we want to thank you guys. Gooch, if you're able to, go ahead and pay the bills. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
We appreciate everybody that watches us, whether religiously or in passing. We truly appreciate you guys in the chat. It's something that we both enjoy. The three of us enjoy. We love talking football. We love talking Chiefs. So we appreciate you guys being here, keeping us engaged and motivated. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. Catch us on. We're going to do a huddle here soon, probably tomorrow late night, but we'll have a huddle up on the RGR channel. We'll be back on here soon, and take care of yourselves. See you in the next one.
Later, guys.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for